Girl, thank Google.
I Googled my symptoms.
Never do that.
And I really would love to get that out of my brain.
I've seen it. It's disgusting.
Something about Elisa. There's something about Elisa.
Oh, Lisa.
Sweet. I love that. Like, oh, dun, 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 dun. Yes. You have to be accountable for what you did.
Who, me? What? I regret nothing. The end.
Did I do something I shouldn't have done?
It's confusing.
What? I do.
Am I missing something?
What the hell is going on? Like, I
do not understand.
What is this woman talking about?
What you talking about, Willis?
I don't want a dissertation. I just want an apology.
I'm sorry you think you deserve an apology.
You deserve 2 flushes. Get out of here, Uncle Tina. Bye. All right, so now he's blaming the weed. This is the whole Shaggy thing. It wasn't me.
Because 2 totally different things.
Keeping a secret and lying are 2 totally different things.
Don't judge me because I know about it. If you know how to twerk, you can twerk all day long and people are going to give you that money in your Cash App. People who have that fetish want to see it.
Do you want to say it?
The conversations are more relatable with Black women. Black women have more in-depth conversations.
Feet. They don't care about personality. They don't care about any other criteria. They're just looking at feet.
But don't let it fool you. Those are fetishes.
That's your fetish.
Okay.
What? Oh, don't judge me. You do not know what I've been through.
Listen, we have a huge, oh my goodness. Well, maybe I shouldn't use that word huge. I don't know.
So huge, it makes me feel even smaller.
Tonight we're going to discuss love. What is love?
I love it. What is it?
Let love, baby!
Would you rather find true love or win the lottery? Win the lottery.
What is lust?
How much do you like it?
Yes, I am back.
I'm back.
Sometimes people in the hood say Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's.
Did you say Valentine's? It's Valentine's. You nobody.
So the definition of lust is an overwhelming sexual desire for another person.
Ooh.
Would you like to have a roll in the hay? Roll in the hay.
Okay, let's talk about it.
You don't want to talk about it?
Hello, everyone. Hello, my urbanites. Welcome to Urban Twos for Change with Dr. Lisa LaCon. Listen, we're having another wonderful show tonight with a very special guest. And let me tell you, these Tuesdays, they go so fast. Oh my gosh. So anyway, listen, we will be right back because man, you don't want to miss this. Stay with us. My urbanites, I love you. I'll see you soon. Yes.
You are entering the Urban Suite with Dr. Lisa LaCon. Let's talk about urban issues plaguing our community. Let's talk about mental health. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about urban issues plaguing our community with Dr. Lisa LaCon.
Listen, tonight we're talking about several issues: suicide, pandemics, juvenile obesity. What's happening with our children, with our youth? So find out in the Urban Suite with special guest, pediatrician Dr. Kia Grundy. I can't wait till we dig into it, and we're going to dig into it right after this. So again, stay with us. We'll be right back. Listen, my urbanites, this is our missing person segment. Every show, I will highlight a missing person. And once again, this person is in the neighborhood where I grew up in Virginia, Northern Virginia. So this is Kendi Fabiola Akal Mazam. She's been missing since January the 18th, 2022. She's 16 years old, you guys. 16 years old. She's been missing from Burke, Virginia. She's female, Hispanic. Her complexion is light. She's 5 feet, 110 pounds, black hair color. It's long and her eye color is brown. I need you all to listen, okay? This is her last location. Kendi was last seen leaving her residence in the 9600 block of Mason Buff Court in Burke, Virginia at approximately 7:32 a.m. to catch the bus to school. Her circumstances of disappearance, Kendi's family learned that she never made it to any classes. It has been reported that Kendi is very trusting with strangers and sometimes asks for rides. She has not been seen since January the 18th, 2022. Listen, that is her picture. Anyone in that area, and I'm going to post this on my personal Facebook page. If anyone has seen Kendi, please contact Fairfax County Police Department at area code 703-246-5426 or BAMFI, which stands for Black and Missing Foundation Incorporated, at 877-97-BAFMI. Let's bring Kendi home, please. All right. All right. So what do we have up next? Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Lisa LaCon. Guess what, you guys? I have some very exciting news.
Folks, great news.
I am moving my time to 7 p.m. Tuesdays. Listen.
I think I'm getting excited.
Are you getting excited?
I heard from you guys, and I called a family meeting. I said,
plaguing
Miles,
our community.
Whiskers, that's my cat and dog. I am moving from 10 to 7 p.m.
That's good to hear. Yo, that's big.
I can't wait to see you Tuesday. New time, 7 p.m. Yay! All right, see you guys. Bye.
Let me see you do that. Yeah, you're getting excited.
Let's talk about urban issues plaguing our community with Dr. Lisa LaCon.
All right, I am back. I have my Wonder Woman bracelet on. Well, I only have one, but anyway. So listen, we have a very special guest tonight. Let me tell you. This bracelet is clapping with me. Yay! So listen, we have a very special guest tonight. She's a phenomenal pediatrician. And you know what? Sometimes I read people's bios, but I want her to tell us, urbanites, tell us about who she is from the heart. No reading anything. I'm going to ask her questions. It is time to understand what is happening with our youth, especially in the urban community. Listen, guys, our numbers of those, our children committing suicide is very high, very high. It's rising. juvenile obesity is rising, meaning that we're getting beyond our weight level. And then what happens as a result of that? Diabetes. I mean, we have all these issues right now. We have a pandemic. Thank God we're in the midst of, getting away from it. However, there are some ramifications, and there may be some long-term ramifications. So without further ado, I'm going to bring out this phenomenal pediatrician, Dr. Kia Grundy.
Yeah!
Oh, welcome.
Thank you for the warm welcome.
Oh man, thank you for joining the Urban Suite with my Urbanites. Those are my guests, my Urbanites. I love my Urbanites.
Well, hello, Urbanites. Hello.
So listen, let's dig into this because this is really important. We have a couple of things to discuss. But first, I need my Urbanites to understand who you are, Dr. Grundy. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Okay, where do you want me to start? I can go all the way back to okay. But let me say this. I think the part that you have to know, and when you're just talking about urbanites and children in the urban community, my start was actually at the Chad School in Newark. Yeah, did you know that?
No.
Yeah. So I attended Chad in Newark. Chad was a school that was built by Black folk for Black folk, and it really came out of a lot of the civil disobedience and the understanding that if we have expectations for our children, if we design programs that will teach them how to excel, focusing particularly on math and science, that they can do it. And almost like the definition of what you said a child can't do, we can do. So the school was very heavily weighted in science and math. And when I say that, I mean, when I was in 5th grade, I was dissecting animals. Most people don't do that until they're in high school. But the reason why I bring that up for a few reasons. One, because it was a school created by Black folk for Black children in the urban community. It really, it was like old school teaching. I mean, there was a standard to be held for sure. Our teachers were greeted sister and brother, and not because they were nuns. It was because they were Black and straight out of Black power. So, my homeroom teacher for 3 years in a row, thank God, he saw potential, was Brother Pat Green, bless his heart. And I'm grateful for him because he was my science teacher, and he was a science teacher. He was a science teacher by day, a police officer by night. And he pushed the sciences, and we were expected to not only learn but excel. And we were a feeder school for the schools up the hill. And when we went, we knew how to perform. We could achieve what people didn't think was a possibility. Right? So that was my start. So had not been for being in a school where there was very much a lot of support for children of color, and not just support, but expectations. And if you didn't rise to that challenge, they were going, that's very key. They were going to drag you along until you got it. If you were on that corner and didn't show up in school, that teacher would come, they were going to come get you off that corner. I mean, I have yet to see anything like it. I will tell you for sure that a lot of the charter schools that are in Newark right now came to the Chad School before it closed to figure out how to pattern their schools. So when you look at these North Stars and these KIPs, they're very regimented way of doing things. They came to the original charter, which it wasn't a charter at that time, but I say that because it was an independent school. And we knew how to produce results and get kids who were high achievers because they taught us what to do. They taught us how to do it. They had expectations and they warned us about it. And
when did it close and why?
Why does anything ever close?
I know.
It always comes down to this. Now I will say this. That's a simple answer, but not really a fully formed answer.
Right. Okay.
And what I will say, and there's a lot of controversy, a lot of question about why it did close. The vision for a very long time was to have the school blossom from a lower school, which was elementary, to high school. And they did that. And when they did the high school, when they blossomed and were able to go to high school, you know, running a school is expensive. And running a school for kids who may not be able to pay a tuition is expensive.
Right.
Running a school and managing to excel and push these kids, it's all expensive. So the money was never leveled off. It was never as if they were operating fully in the black. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is they always had at some point they had some endowments from organizations, but sometimes when folks give you endowments, they also want to tell you how to do your thing.
Right.
So there's a lot of discussion about how it happened or why. What I will say is that I was exceptionally blessed to have been there from 1976 to 1985. I still have friends from elementary school. The high school wasn't, it was still a vision when I graduated. So I went to a feeder school, but it really had not been for the vision and the recognition of my teachers at the time and the stick-to-itiveness. And also at the time, you know, there was Black social workers. There was all these organizations that were really supportive of children of color.
Right.
And everybody, we pulled together. There was a community, right?
Right.
So that built Kia. So Kia could go up the hill up the hill to North County and deal with major shift, because now I was dealing with kids who were exceptionally privileged, had a ton of money. Didn't know what to do with it and didn't understand what it was like to not have it.
Right.
To then go from up the hill to Virginia to Hampton University.
Right. Yes.
Back to my people. Because after being there, you know, being up the hill for a minute, which is what I call it, and then going to Hampton, it was different to meet people who looked like me, and we all came from different walks of life for sure.
Right. Absolutely.
And then I came back to Newark to do med school. So
now, what was your major in Hampton?
Biology.
Oh, no wonder I never saw you.
Girl, we went on books. There were certain majors you were just in a book. You know,
right. I never saw the nursing majors, biology, and architect majors. Like they had
and engineering.
And engineering, yes.
Too.
Never saw them.
No,
never.
Girl. That was it. Any free moment I had after sophomore year, I was booking it home to see my boyfriend at the time. The upside is I married the man.
So I was at every party.
Oh, wait now, let me be clear. I partied a lot freshman year, but after that, things got a little tougher. And I mean, I partied every weekend, but I studied.
And I did see you, though.
You did?
That's right.
All I can say is, biology was an intense major. You know, it really was. And I am grateful. And I know had not been for just the vision of my teachers way back when, and also the fortuitiveness of my mother put me and to be able to do it financially, it put me in a position where people could mold me, you know, because a parent can't do it on their own.
Right.
You know,
absolutely.
You have to, it has to be a whole village. So it's the parent, it's the school, it's the community affairs, it's the church I went to, because those were my only friends. I didn't get to hang out anyplace else. I get to hang out at church. That was it.
Now, did you see a difference because you're describing Newark back then, and then I know in DC, because we grew up pretty much in the same era, we had crack. Did you see the consequences and the ramifications of crack and how that played even with other students younger than you going through the school system, and how it changed things to sort of where we are now today, like the long-term consequences of that whole crack epidemic?
So, yes and no. My mom worked really hard to keep me somewhat encapsulated, right? And to keep me and really, I won't say I didn't see it. I just didn't get a chance to get too close.
Right. Yeah.
So, for example, when I went out my block, you know, and went down my street to go catch the bus to go up the hill. I had to catch the 73 bus because my mother had to be to work. I was raised by a single parent. She had to be to work. So I had to be on the bus by 6:15 in the morning to get to Livingston for school. The goal was to get to the bus stop early enough that you could get a seat, late enough that the hookers were gone.
Right.
early enough before the people came out who were going to have, the people who were just going to catcall and all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And you had to have your wherewithal about you. Right. You had to choose a great place to be in the light.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was there. Yes, the prostitutes lived down the street. They lived down the street. The crack house was down that street. But you kind of knew not to walk past this way. And if you did, you didn't go by yourself, or you walked real fast past that house. And certainly when, I was in elementary school, the elements, it was changing. Mm-hmm. But again, when I tell you the teachers would go to the corner to get the person who was hanging on the corner, if he was supposed to be in school, they did. And when I tell you my science teacher, my homeroom teacher, literally was a police officer at night. That was his full-time gig. Also, he had 2 full-time jobs. That's commitment right there as a teacher. He had 2 full-time jobs. And we knew he worked as a police officer at night. Mm-hmm. So daytime, when he was falling asleep teaching, my job as a student was, and maybe that's why he kept me in his homeroom for 3 years. I had the coffee collection girl. I would make sure my teacher was up. Brother Pat, hey, can I have some coffee? And I'm not even kidding. But I mean, you can see things changing for sure. Yeah. But I think I had a sense that my mother was doing her absolute best. Mm-hmm. And because my world really revolved around home, school, church, and I could bicycle to my friend's house, and you didn't stop. And I was too afraid to do that either. I mean, I was a single female. Where was I going? So, I wanted to be cute, but I didn't want to be that cute.
Right. Why did you get into pediatric medicine? Why that particular?
Why peds in particular?
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, I thought I wanted to do dermatology, and then I went and did part of high school. We had to do 80 hours of community service, right? Mm-hmm. So my 80 hours of community service, I chose to work at University Hospital. Okay. That was eye-opening. So I worked at University Hospital in the clinics.
And that's in Newark for people that may not know.
Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. It's in Newark. So University Hospital is pretty much, at the time, it was the mecca of where you could go to get good health care. Mm-hmm. But I understand that the people who were the primary recipients of the health care definitely did not have a lot. Up and down to that too. There's upside and downside. The upside is that if you are a confident person and you they will allow you to learn. Mm-hmm. And I think as a person that's learning, you have to be respectful of the fact that people are allowing you to learn with their care, right? Mm-hmm. So I worked at university for 80 hours. I worked in the clinic, answering the phone. Sometimes, going, they don't allow you to do too much when you're in high school, but it was enough that it gave me an opportunity to see. And at that time, that was 80s. We were full-fledged still in HIV, still trying to figure things out. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And at that time, I was in the clinics that kind of changed. So one day it would be dermatology clinic, the next day it would be something else. Mm-hmm. And I can remember having people come in, and I knew that the diagnosis was like Kaposi sarcoma, and I mean just things where you saw people's skin, and I was just like, woof, it would just make me itch. So I was like, okay, dermatology is not it. I wanted to do. I thought I would want to do some sort of psychology or psychiatry, and I had a really good friend get hurt and assaulted in a way, and I thought, I don't know if I could be, I don't know how well I would manage trying to still be very neutral. So I said, that's not it. Then I wanted to do OBGYN. And the doctors, and this is by the time I got into med school, I thought I wanted to do OBGYN. And when you're in your first 2 years of med school, it's all classroom time. So you're in a classroom from sun up to sundown, 8 to 5, and if you're not in a classroom, you're in a lab. So that's the first 2 years of med school, and then the second 2 years, the third and fourth year of med school, you're doing what's called clinical rotations. So when you do that third and fourth year, you spend anywhere from 4 weeks to 12 weeks, depending upon what it is, what the rotation is, doing different specialties. So OBGYN was like 8 weeks. So those are the people who deliver the babies and also do, the vaginal exams and like that. And I actually thought I wanted to do that. When I was at Hampton, I actually worked at Planned Parenthood. And went to Planned Parenthood. I was one of the chaperones at Planned Parenthood because if there was a male physician, you had to have a female in the room when the exam was being done. And I genuinely loved GYN. I wanted to do that. I didn't like the OB part so much. I didn't realize that until I was in med school. And they would send you to go figure out how dilated a woman was. And when that, it just, I was just like, I don't know, 10 centimeters.
Right.
I was like, oh, this is not for me. And the other thing is that the women who were in that specialty were, mean is not a nice word, but they were not happy. I'll say that. They were not the happiest people. They were working really, really hard. And even though one of my best girlfriends was in the program, she was an intern just like me, and we were together in med school. And it was just crazy to see women who are so miserable. And in my life, I couldn't imagine being that way. Peds rotation. I did pediatrics rotation. It was the dead of winter. I did it on a hematology. I was in what is called the step down unit. So you have your intensive care unit. And then when you come out of the intensive care unit, you have what we call the step down unit, which means you're outside of the intensive care unit. You're not well enough to be on the main floor where people walk away from you and leave you for hours, and they can come back and check on you and do every 3-4 hour vitals. You're sick enough that you have to be where you're getting like every hour, viewing from somebody, and they're checking your vitals and whatnot, but you're not sick enough to be in the ICU. So in the step down unit, they tend to have kids who are really sick, a lot of cancer patients. Just really sick kids. And despite the fact that these kids were sick, the parents were scared. I just felt at home. It was like the one time I got up and I went to work, and I was like, and I went to train, because when you're doing training in medical school, it's intense. They're on you, like you have, they're calling you to the carpet about everything. You have to be able to answer everything, and they can very quickly ask you this, that, and the other, and you have to come up with the answer, or you look stupid in front of everybody. And that was really the first rotation I went in. I was like,
wow, this is I'm home. I am home. And then speaking of I am home, for that population, children, at what age do they transition from the pediatric to perhaps a primary care, a PCP, a primary care physician, and if they are female, an OB/GYN? How does that work?
Like, how does it work? Okay, so a couple of things. One, you can go to a GYN. We're not gonna call it OB, because God willing, we're not delivering any babies anytime soon. But they can go to a GYN at whatever point they decide they want to go.
Okay.
The rule is no longer that they have to go by age 18, right? Okay. If you're not using it and you're not having sex, you don't need to go. Okay. Right? That can be just as traumatizing, and sometimes you end up getting tests done that are going to be false positives, and you haven't even been using your vagina. What's the point? So when they decide they want to go, or if they feel they want to go, that's an appropriate time. That's the first answer as far as GYN goes. And then the transfer over to adult medicine, it's really different per pediatrician, to be very honest. So I used to transfer the kids out at 18, because 18, they tend to start having adult issues. I stopped doing that for a couple of reasons. One, when President Obama was president, he extended coverage for the kids to age 26. That was helpful, right? So that the kids weren't kicked off as soon, and they're not ready to be kicked off anyway. They just aren't. They're not that mature. And the other thing I recognize is that I was growing a great population of my kids to go on to college, right? And this is what I'm grooming them to do, or to even go on to to a job, right? There's a lot of transition, particularly with college, right? So you go off, you are going to some place, and when you come back home, you kind of want to come back to things familiar, right? Adult docs, they're not really warm and fuzzy.
Right.
They aren't. And I know my kids. My patients know me, and they know what I'm going to say.
Right.
And if it's a kid talking to me and he's like, Doc, and I'm like, dude, what'd you do? And he's like, I was at a party. And how much did you drink? And he's like, I don't know, 3 drinks. 3 drinks or 3 red cups.
Right.
So they know if I'm going to ask, I can handle the answer. It's okay. I'm going to ask. And then, the next question is, 3 red cups. Well, what kind of liquor was in the red cup? Right. So then when you can ask that question, you can relate to your kids. And I say your kids, I mean mine, because they're my patients, but they're still mine. That's a bond that's, I won't say it's a difficult one to break, but it is familiar, right? So that decision to transition is, I really leave it up to the kids. Technically, they can be covered until they're put off of their parents' insurance. Okay. When they start having children, then they need to be off, and they now need to be parents. And now I can be the parent. I can be the physician for the the baby, right? So I have practice grandparent. I am a practice grandparent. I have patients I've taken care of for years, and they now have babies, and they bring the babies to me. So we keep the connection that way.
Wow.
But it's really more about when the kid is ready to transition. And I say that, for instance, I had a kid who was in the police academy. I mean, straight out in the police academy. And my husband, who was saying, isn't he ready to leave you yet?
Right.
I'm like, when he gets his insurance, he'll leave.
He's like, no, I don't want to leave you, Dr. Grundy. No.
But here's the thing. And this is the difference between a pediatrician and an adult doc. Okay. This kid trusted me enough. He came and he had all kinds of razor bumps on his head because he's in the police academy. He had to shave bald. And he'd never done that before. Dr. Grundy picked up the phone, and I called another bald-headed friend. I had to phone a friend. Could you please talk him through what to do? Because his father was no longer living, right? And he talked to him. He told him what products to do, how often to do it. He talked to him like he was his own son. Wow. He doesn't know this kid, nor has he ever met him. Probably never will. Right? But I can be the conduit because I know that the father is no longer living. Right. So I can connect him to another male figure that I trust to give him advice, right? So that's that thing that is kind of hard. You know, you get he trusts me enough. He knows that I'm only going to give him somebody who's going to love on him some. And once he got his insurance, he was gone. Wow. Now he's an adult carrying a gun, and Dr. Grundy is no longer his pediatrician. So the transition is. I mean, I've had kids write me letters about why they shouldn't leave, and I get it. But at some point, when you start doing big people stuff, then you need to be with a big people doc. Yeah, and I'll tell them that. I love you. You can always come back and see me, but
Now, how long have you been in practice? How long have you
practiced? Since 2001.
Oh, wow.
Oh, did I just say that out loud? 1 year. Lord have mercy.
Yay!
Wait a minute. I am doing a talk tomorrow for I call it one of my kids, but one of a friend's kids who's in law school now. She's down at Howard Law, right? So I'm doing a presentation to the law students tomorrow at lunch about wellness, right? On her bio, she says Dr. Grundy has been in practice more than a decade. I saw decade. I said, wait a minute, what? Decade? Oh, how did that happen?
Oh my God.
2 decades. Woo!
That's something. So listen, we're still in the midst of this pandemic. And I know your practice changed in terms of seeing patients one-on-one to virtual things of that nature. Right. So how did you, 2 questions, how did you adjust, and what do you believe will be the long-term effects of the pandemic for our children psychologically?
Okay, now that's a loaded question. We're gonna have to go back to that one because that's not even simple by any stretch of the imagination. So, hold X, you're gonna have to ask that again. Okay. Okay. Your first question was what now?
The first question: how did you adjust and adapt from seeing your patients come into your workplace and examining them to examining them online? Like, how did you do that?
Yeah. So you know what's interesting? I literally right before COVID hit, I was in a conference and I was so against virtual visits. I did televisits. I'm like, how do you do this without actually laying your hands on a patient? And I will tell you, I have encountered patients in the years of doing this. I used to work for a practice, and I actually had a parent say to me, "You touched my child." It wasn't a bad thing. She was just like, "You touched her," and I thought, well, okay, right. What was happening before? Because how was somebody doctoring on your baby and not touching your child?
Right.
I still don't understand that, but however it was, the doctor would tell the person turn around, lay down. She just never touched the kid. I don't know how you do that, but that was a practice in Elizabeth. So my first practice when I came out, I worked for Dr. Montre Thomas, Black woman in Orange, and she really taught me how to doctor. Because I think there's a thing, right? I can have all the medical knowledge in the world, but how do you care for a patient and their family, right? Because I can't do anything for a child unless the parents are on board. You just can't. Right. So I always have more than one patient when a family comes in. When one child comes in, I have at least 2 patients. I have to deal with the child and the parent. And then sometimes it's the child, both parents, the grandparents, the godparents. It depends.
Wow.
So the first doctor I worked with really taught me how to parent, how to doctor a whole family. The second doctor I worked for in Elizabeth taught me what not to do.
Okay.
They were very much about money. They were not about care. Some of the things that I saw happening there, I just couldn't get out of there fast enough, right? She was the doctor that wasn't touching anybody. I had never seen anything like that. So for me, that transition of figuring out how to do virtual care without actually like touching a patient, it really, I will say, about 75-80% of what your diagnosis is clinical. In other words, what you say to me means something. The story is in what you say. Typically, the diagnosis is in what you say, and I'm actually looking at you to confirm what I believe based on what you said. Okay, so it's not always about the touch. It's where is the distribution? When did it start? Does it hurt? How fast did it spread? All of that matters. So I really had to hone some serious skills. You know, the same things that we do when you think you need to be able to physically touch a person. I had to kind of hone that a lot. What I will say is, as long as there's some decent lighting, I can pick up most rashes. It tuned my skills even more succinctly. It was just I mean, it's amazing that you could actually do it. But again, most of what we do and most of the diagnosis is in the story and what they say. So it was a challenge. I tell you what I enjoyed about virtual care, right?
Okay.
You know, when people come into your office, you have to accept whatever they tell you for face value. And whatever they bring you or whatever they share with you is what you get, right? What I enjoyed was the fact that whenever I was doing a televisit, every pet in the house would find the camera. They're gonna come. They're gonna get. So for me, it gave me a different way to relate to the child, right? So I could see the rabbits or the snakes or the dogs, the cats. They all managed to be in the series some kind of way. They found their. So it was just nice to be able to see where my kids are living. It was nice that the parents will allow me in, because they have to allow you in. They're literally coming into your home, right?
Because we don't do home visits too much anymore.
No. So imagine you're allowing me in your home to do that. So it's a little bit more intimate, believe it or not. Because you're now allowing me in, and that requires a fair amount of trust. Right?
It does.
And then also
that little section of the room.
Sometimes they would knocking stuff off. And I get it, because my house is not pristine either. Like, it just isn't. We all live. And I would just tell people, it's okay, baby. It's okay. But there's trust in that. And there's also not only trust in allowing me to come in, but trust in that the diagnosis I give you is what fits, even though I can't physically touch you. Right? So I am blessed in that I have patients who are, it is a relationship. And I say that to parents all the time. And I will say to parents, when I have new parents who come in and interview, and they'll say, you know, they're asking me all these questions that the parenting books tell you to ask, or the baby books tell you to ask the physician. And I'm very clear. Listen, I'm me all the time. Sometimes I'm like, oh God, maybe I shouldn't have said that. But I'm me all the time. I don't have a lot of fluff. You know, if you're looking for somebody in a white coat, that's not me. If you're looking for somebody who's going to not tell it to you like you need to hear it, not me. I think if you need to hear it a certain way, I'm gonna tell you I love you, but this is what I think. And there has to be respect and relationship in that. And also the fact that if they tell me something, I can say, okay, I can take it. And then, all right, well, you know, I respect you telling me what you think or how you feel. Because for me to tell you to go do something, and I know that's not anything you want to do, what's the point? Right? So now I'm thinking you're off getting treated like I said, do it. And then the kid doesn't get better. And then you come back and now you're frustrated, and I'm frustrated because I don't know that you didn't do what I thought you were going to do. Right? So that's relationship. Right? And I am very quick to tell people, because this is a thing that I enjoy, and because their kids are my kids. And that's how I speak about they're mine. That if the relationship is fractured, either way, it's okay to go. All right. You don't have to stay if you disagree heavily or you don't like me. I'm okay. You know, and it's not that I'm being flippant. It's just I can't get anything done for a child if there is not trust. Right. what's the point? If you come in and you're cussing at my staff, you're not going to get to stay.
Right.
It just doesn't work.
Absolutely.
Or if you're cussing in the vicinity of my staff,
right,
you don't get to stay because my patients don't need to hear that.
Right. Yes.
So, and I bet you don't go up the hill doing that either. Let's be honest.
Right.
But just saying, if that's fractured in a way, it's okay.
Now, what are some of the changes you've seen in terms of since the pandemic, mental health issues, things of that nature, from pandemic to being in it now?
Okay, perfect example. We've been in this for 2 years. I have 2 years worth of babies whose parents, I don't really know what I don't know what they look like fully because I can't see a whole face, right? I am still careful with my staff and with my health. If I go down, nobody gets paid. I have to be able to work, right? So I am very careful about our safety here in this office. So the parents have to keep their mask up, right? And they have to come in with a mask. And if you're over 2, you need to have a mask on too. Pull it up. Right. I'm always doing this throughout the day, right? But think about it. These babies, a lot of them, to protect them, they've been in the house. They don't even know how to, they're like other people. They don't even understand how to navigate more than 5 or 10 people. It's too much. They're not used to it. Think about it. And then when they come out for the few minutes that they're out, everybody's got masks on their face. They're constantly pulling.
Oh my God.
These kids, it's not like, you know how you could put a kid down and like in there, you know, like they're in a play gym and they kind of just start toweling. These kids are so busy looking at the other kids. Like, ooh.
Wow.
And these are the babies. So imagine what that translates to. We won't even talk about the fact that anybody who was in grade school on up, almost 2 years worth of education lost. I don't care what they thought they were doing virtually. These kids are so far behind. It's not even.
And that's a long-term, I believe, effect.
And
I don't
absolutely,
know if the children will be able to catch up. And then we were talking about something also about the patient health questionnaire 9. You administer, and I also administer that with my clients just to get a baseline of how they are. If they have a goal, say for instance, if they have a goal to want to lose weight, I always have to use this screening tool just to assess where they are, because are they losing weight? Because, you know, are they depressed or things of that nature? Can we talk about the PHQ, the Patient Health Questionnaire 9?
Sure. So one of the things, you know, that's a recognized tool to kind of screen for depression. Sometimes the kids over answer. So sometimes I'll have to kind of go back through the answers. So the questions are feeling down, depressed, irritable, or hopeless. So 0 is not at all. 1 is several days. 2 is more than half the days. And 3 is nearly every day. Right? So the kids are putting a check mark in the boxes to let you know where they are. So little interest or pleasure in doing things. Trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, or sleeping too much. Now, here's what's interesting. During COVID, that was like a 3 for everybody.
Wow.
Because the first few months of COVID, the kids really weren't getting, I mean, remember now, teachers didn't know how to teach online, right? So we had 1 full year almost of teachers teaching online and being prepared for it. And then that first, you know, like when COVID first hit, most of these teachers had no clue how to do this. So they were learning on the fly. And some of the schools were in for a couple of hours. Other schools were in for 4. I mean, it was crazy how many hours these kids were in school. It was not many, right? So these kids, particularly the high schoolers, were sleeping all day long. And they were up all night long. And the parents would come in and they would say, he doesn't sleep. Not to say that I was cavalier about it, but and not to say I was defending the kid, but they were all not sleeping. If a kid came in here and told me they were sleeping, I really thought something was wrong with them. It wasn't normal. All of their friends were up all night long. Why would they sleep? So their whole everything got turned upside down and around. So that was interesting because when you would ask that question, trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, or sleeping too much, they all slept too much. And that answer was going to be a 3. So sometimes that would drive the scoring, right? And make it look as if they were depressed, but they were just up because everybody else was. Poor appetite, weight loss, or overeating. What they're really trying to ask, are you just listless? Do you not want to do anything? But again, this is a question that was difficult to assess during COVID. And I'll tell you why. That overeating part, they have that included in these questions. But guess what? When kids are home all day, they're in school for
They're
2
going to eat.
hours. They're going to eat.
Right. They're going to eat.
Exactly.
Snack,
So,
snack.
the parents are overfeeding the babies because they were just trying to keep them still and quiet while they were working from home. It was not a good look. So that one is, honestly, that one would get scored up at a 3 also, but that was difficult. You had to tease that out and you had to ask questions because most of the time the kids were overeating genuinely because there was nothing else to do. Feeling tired of having little energy. I mean, we're trying to ask about depressed kids, but half the time the kids were feeling tired because they weren't sleeping at night. And now they're up during the day and answering my questions and they're aggravated because they could be asleep. I had kids that first bout of COVID, that first semester or first, that end of that
first
that
initial
year.
phase.
Yeah, some of those kids would just have to sign in for the day, right? So in the town where I lived, they had to be present for the day. But being present for the day meant you had to go on a computer and you had to be present.
Right.
At midnight, they could sign in at school. You didn't have to show up anyplace else. It floored me. So feeling bad about yourself or feeling that you're a failure, that you've let yourself or your family down. I have to ask that question and just clarify that too, because oftentimes if they had just gotten into trouble or if a parent said you can do better, they carry that very, very heavily, especially kids that are perfectionists. Trouble concentrating on things like schoolwork, reading, or watching TV, that's probably relative. Moving or speaking so slowly that other people could have noticed. Well, again, if they're up all night long. So my point in saying this is that this is meant to be a screening tool for depression, but sometimes you have to stop and ask the question.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But here's what I will say. Everybody had some flags first few months. So now this is when it shifted. So we figured, like March to June, we were just trying to get through, right? And most of the kids figured that was 2020. And most of the kids figured that after we got through that period, we would be back in school in September.
Right.
And then they weren't.
Right.
A good amount of them were not. That is when the depression really sunk in for most of the kids. So when I went to go do this, everybody was flaring. I mean, everybody was flagged. Most kids, and if you looked at this, and I think most of the kids were really genuinely depressed. It was almost a highlight for me if I did not see a kid with depression. I turned around after October of 2020, and I was at a pediatric conference, a national pediatric conference, and I was listening to one lecture, and we were all in that same boat. Like everybody understood that that's what was happening with our kids. So not only were they depressed, suicide rates were going up. There was a lot going on. So one of the talks I was in, there is a new screener that they were using and they've had a lot of success with. And the reason why the PHQ-9 is used so often is because it's validated, right? So when you have all of these different screeners, it has to be validated. It has to be something that has been tested against, a ton of people, and they can see that there is typically some consistency with the answer and that this does typically indicate that a person is depressed, right? All right, so got used to working with that, but then on the bottom of the PHQ-9, there's 2 questions. There's a few questions. So the last question is thoughts that you would be better off dead or of hurting yourself in some way. All right, for anybody to know that that's how your child feels is horrible, right? It's horrendous. It takes you to your knees because you never want your child to feel that way. Then there's 2 other questions. In the past year, have you felt depressed or sad most days, even if you felt okay sometimes? And I will tell you, the bulk of kids answered yes. If you're experiencing any of the problems on this form, how difficult have these problems made it for you to do your work, take care of things at home? And most of them would answer somewhat difficult. So I added another screener to my PHQ-9, and it actually is the Ask Suicide Screenings questions. So my questions to the patients, in addition to the PHQ-9, in the past few weeks, have you wished you were dead? It's a yes or a no. In the past few weeks, have you felt that you or your family would be better off if you were dead? A yes or a no.
Right.
In the past few weeks, have you been having thoughts about killing yourself? Because the questions have to be very specific, yes or no. Have you ever tried to kill yourself? If so, how and when? Which these seem like really intense questions. Like, what are you doing?
Right.
And then the last one says, and if you answered yes to any of these, are you having thoughts of killing yourself right now?
Right.
They seem really invasive, but I hate, and I hate to tell you that the majority of the time, almost all of 2020 into 21, there were yeses on this.
Now, do you believe that's why the suicide rate is increasing amongst our children, especially within the Black population? It's just
they are in pain. I don't know what else to say about it. There's a level of pain, not a level of the coping skills. Their coping skills are very different than ours.
Yes.
In my heart,
I know. You're getting like
I don't do well.
Right.
It's almost like I would see the questions. I'd have to get myself together.
Right.
And then I go see the patient. Right.
Right.
And I've seen everything from the mother try and tell me, well, she's just being dramatic. Mom,
right.
The child just said she wished she was dead.
Right.
She thinks y'all would be okay if she was dead.
Right.
Dramatic? Okay.
Right.
Well, let's just, okay. And
now, do you have one of the questions about a plan? Because I know you had the suicide ideation.
Yes.
What was the question?
Have you ever tried to kill yourself?
Okay, right.
If in the past week have you been having thoughts about killing yourself?
Right.
That's kind of your plan right there.
Right.
And I will ask if they get yeses on this. I ask them, well, how are you going to do it? Because sometimes that gives me an idea. If you can tell me what you're going to do, then I know you've been thinking about it.
Right. Exactly.
Enough, and that alarms me. But yeah, do I recognize that the rates are higher? Yes. Do I see? I have my own thoughts about it. We know the rates are higher for sure. The question is why? What the hell is going on? Really? Like,
yeah. What the heck is going on?
You can say, heck, I'm over it. I'm so tired because I'm just like.
Right. Growing up, like you said, the things that you went through, catching the bus, seeing the prostitute, seeing the so on. I mean, I saw that too. And it's sort of like, I feel like you mentioned something, coping skills. I think the coping skills that the generation after us, I think with each generation, it seems like the coping skills decreased. And I will never forget my son. He's in law school now, and he was playing, I think he was like in elementary school playing on a basketball team, and it was like a little league, and his team won, and they had like maybe 8 teams, and everyone had the same size trophy. And I'm like, wait a minute, but the losing team had the same size trophy as the winning team. So what are we teaching our children? And that is the generation right now that's in their 20s, like their early 20s. Like, does this generation know how to lose? Like, I don't know, responsibly? Like, do they have coping skills to say, okay, I lost? And I'm like, everyone gets the same size trophy? I could not believe it.
I get you. Let me tell you my thought about it though. I so totally understand what you're saying. I do. And I don't know if that just teaches a kid not to know how to fight well. You have to be able to fight. You want that big trophy, you have to fight for it. I think there's differences, right? I think we had to navigate life differently. Mm-hmm. And when I say that, I mean, we had to have the wherewithal, the street skills to get from one place to the next, right? So you had to have your wits about you, right? So there was some coping with that even, because you had to figure out, okay, when I got here, if I missed the bus now, what do I do? Right? Your mama wasn't dropping you off.
Right. And we didn't have cell phones.
We had no cell phones.
We had no
It was
pager.
dark. You had to have the good sense to get home or find somebody or find a phone or keep some money in your pocket. So
right, a quarter, a dime. Right. Yeah.
So that's kind of like a planning and coping thing, right?
Right.
And we understood that there were no immediate answers. Mm-hmm. We also understood that with there not being immediate answers, there really, and I'm going to say it twice, there were not immediate answers. In life, in order for us to make change, we had to work behind the scenes to make things happen, right? There was no microwave like that. There was no quick answer. If you wanted the answer, you went to the library. You had to get there before everybody else got there to get that same book that only y'all needed. Right. And you had to pray somebody had the decency to return the book. Right. And you had to get there before the rest of your classmates got there to get that book, because your mom didn't have money to go buy the book. Which meant you had to think ahead to go to get the book. Right? That's a skill.
Right.
right? But we also recognized that life was not fair. We had to, and it didn't necessarily have to make sense, but who were you to question it? Because you weren't allowed to question it. This is what it is. And you had to figure it out. This generation, especially these, 15 on up to like 25, because I've got a 20 and a 24-year-old. They're intelligent children. Let me be real clear. They're very, very smart.
Yes.
So what I say is not, I don't mean to take away from the fact that I think they are smart children.
Right.
But a lot of it has to do with the fact that information comes to them very easily and very quickly. They can pick up a phone and figure out what's going on in the world.
Oh yeah. They can Google.
But,
Alexa, whatever her name is.
Exactly.
So
it's very quick. They don't have to wait for anything. They don't have to so they don't know how to wait for anything. Wait for a bus? What?
Right.
I
can do an Uber. Right.
Hello? Oh my God. Uber Eats, Uber this, Uber that. So they didn't have to plan this crap out. Right. They're also Obama babies, right? So these kids lived a significant amount of their lives with some fairness, right? In the world. Back when we understood that the world was not always fair, because this is who was in leadership, and we really couldn't challenge it on all ends. It just was what it was. Now these kids they're like, no, this isn't right. We're just going to tell everybody about it and blow it all up, and everybody's going to find out, and we're going to do something. So their emotional intelligence is different, because their skill set is in the intelligence, but it's here, not necessarily the emotional intelligence and the emotional coping skills that we had to have.
Right.
So they're smarter than we were, because they have a lot more information coming at them, but they do not have the emotional intelligence to deal or to cope with what's coming at them. So there's a lot of information coming, and they just don't know how to harness.
Right. We call it back.
They don't have it.
Street smarts. Smarts.
Right. So they've got the book smarts or the internet smarts, but they do not have the street smarts. Now, honestly, we're kind of responsible for that, though.
I know, right? We are.
As I know, mine got driven to wherever, because I could never get driven. So I took mine wherever they needed to go, right?
No, my husband is the driver. I'm like, no, you can walk. I walk, you can walk. I want them to be more resilient. I want them to be like, if you can make a Thanksgiving dinner, go ahead and make your dinner.
I hear you. My husband is a retired police lieutenant, so he's exceptionally very protective. And when I tell you, even now, for my kids to do, things to like when my daughter wanted to do, to go down to the shore after high school graduation.
Oh yeah, the beach week.
When I tell you,
beach week.
Literally, all the other parents waited till my husband weighed in, because they knew it was well vetted by the time he went in.
Yes.
Because they knew he was always the stopgap, or the kids wouldn't even say anything to their parents until my husband had said yay. Because at that point, the plan was set and the questions were answered. So my kids, they unfortunately, they understand the world from his view, but they're also he's just intense when it comes. Their safety is.
Yeah. So speaking of that, we're going to show a clip of what happened in New Jersey at Bridgewater Mall. And I want to get your opinion on this. So if we can pull that clip up, that would be fantastic.
You trying to make me angry today? Girl, it's 7:55 p.m. and you're trying to make me angry. She's trying to make me angry.
Video of police breaking up a fight between two teen boys at Bridgewater Commons Mall is sparking outrage. But it's not the fight that has caused the video to go viral. It's how police responded to the situation, which has now prompted an internal affairs investigation. The altercation shown here on Instagram shows the teens, one white and one black, arguing before they start pushing and punching each other. When the police arrive, officers are then seen pinning the black teenager to the ground and handcuffing him, while the white teen was allowed to sit on a couch. The female officer is also seen putting her knee on the black teen's back, despite him not appearing to resist. Governor Murphy reacted to the video, tweeting he is deeply disturbed by what appears to be racially disparate treatment in this video. In response to the fight, the mall senior manager says both boys involved are now banned from the property property for the next 3 years. The Bridgewater police have asked the Somerset County Prosecutor's Office to assist in the investigation.
Now, you know, when I first saw it, I was, as a mother of 2 sons, I'm a mother with 4 children. As a mother with 2 sons, and one is 17, 3 years older than the black child. I was so upset, and then I caught wind today that it says, this is from the news. This is from a news outlet, the New York Daily News. A black teen roughed up by New Jersey cops at mall, told to pay for the broken table. I was like, what? I could not believe what I saw. And I thank God that the mom, you know, lawyered up with Ben Crump. So Ben Crump is going to basically be the attorney for the family. But in terms of what that child, 14 years old, what he experienced, you know, and I saw an interview with him and he seemed, you know, pretty decent, but what could possibly happen to him psychologically and just whatever based on that experience?
Think about the fact that you're not going to ever have a child who trusts the police. Period. Right? Police are in your community to help. That's what they're supposed to be there for. They are not that the role they played in that mall was not what a policeman is supposed to be. It's not what they're supposed to do.
Right.
They are there to protect and to serve. That's what they're supposed to do. Right. And you know, I saw that video from so many different directions. Oh my God. And then I talked to my husband, who's a retired police officer, and he was livid. He was the heat coming off of that man, watching what happened and how that went down, and the fact that 2 people who secured one child who wasn't even fighting back.
Right.
And when you're dealing with kids, sometimes, you know, it's a mall fight.
Right.
You need to handcuff anybody. And then you sat this other kid down on the sofa, like the overseer.
Right.
And then this kid gets up and stands up behind you. Policing is horrible on that end.
Right.
If that kid was really a threat, if he was a threat, because apparently they decided he wasn't, because that's why he was sitting on the sofa. Like
and then she turned her back to him also.
Right. So she's got her back to him. She's down and this kid is standing up behind her. At what point does that even look safe?
Right, yeah, exactly.
On behalf of the police officer, it's not safe. So if you were thinking at all, you would have secured him first. You're not going to leave him sitting behind you.
Right.
What are you doing?
Right.
It's just the whole, that's one level of whatever. But at the end of the day, why do we have this child down here on the floor? It was all optics. It was about the fact that you thought this child was more of a threat than this kid.
Right.
When this kid was clearly the aggressor when they walked up.
Oh.
It just, my heart then, if I saw my own kid roughed up like that behind something that was just so stupid, the mother was very calm. When I did see her interview, she was so calm. And all I could think was, this kid is never, ever going to have a good relationship, nor will he ever trust someone in a position of authority that is a police officer.
Right.
Even if that person is there to help him. You know, because in life, you're going to encounter different situations and different people. And by far, am I going to not ever say that all police officers are good. But I happen to be married to a good one. And I happen to be married to someone who made sense, right? Who was fair enough that if, you know, during the time that he was, you know, working, you know, if his stuff was stolen out of a police car by the neighborhood crack addict, they wouldn't tell him where his stuff was. That's what I'm talking to you about. Like the man who would feed the people who needed the you know, it's just disheartening. And I'm really, really, really sad that kid went through that, because it's just not going to make for, it's not going to make for a situation where you have a kid who thrives in some situations. So now just dissect this out. We teach our Black males, and we have to do this because we need them to be safe. We teach them to respect authority, right? We have to, because that's how they stay safe.
Right.
Which is why that kid wasn't resisting, because he knew if he did resist.
Exactly.
Oh my God. Can you imagine if he did resist?
Oh.
Somebody told that baby, if something happens and the police approach you, just lay there.
Just like,
because
right.
that's the only way that didn't escalate.
Yeah.
Because it could have. Right?
Yes.
Because if they had two people on him on his back and he wasn't resisting, imagine what that would have looked like otherwise,
Yes.
right? So somebody had a conversation with that kid beforehand about what to do if somebody approaches you, if police approach you. Because you don't know if they're friend, foe, where they are with their mind. Right? Imagine now, we teach our Black boys in particular how to respect authority because that's what keeps them safe. And these same Black boys go to college, right? And let's just take an example. They go to college. You got, what are we going to call him? Bo. And you got Jamal.
Right.
Bo and Jamal take this exam. Jamal was misscored. Or there was a question that could have gone both ways.
Right.
And it's the difference between an A and a B or a B and a C. And he needs to go challenge the teacher. The teacher is an authority figure, right?
Right.
Bo is going to go charge up and say, teach, I should have this. And he's not going to feel threatened to go up there and challenge the authority of that teacher and get the score he's supposed to get.
Right.
Jamal has been taught to respect authority his entire life. He is not going to go up there and challenge that teacher. He's not going to ask for a change of grade.
Right.
So what I'm saying to you is the way we have to teach our children in order for them to continue to live and be safe sometimes causes issues down the line. Because if you look at our Black boys that are admitted to college and they go, because they got the smarts and the wherewithal to get in, but they don't stay or they don't finish. It's not always finances. It's easy to say it's finances. It's finances and other things.
Right.
One of those other things is that half the time they're in this world where they now have all these other people. They don't have the protection of their parent to kind of advocate for them.
Yes.
And they don't know how to advocate for themselves because we really haven't taught them to do that. Because one, you have to fear your mama because your mother is going to, you have to understand how to stay alive in your household.
Yes.
But then the second thing is we teach them to respect authority to stay alive. So now when they go to school away from us, sometimes out in these areas where they don't see other people who look like them.
Yes.
And now they've got to challenge that teacher or ask for a grade. And maybe not even be a challenge. Maybe they're asking for something, approaching them. They're not going to do it. Why? Because they have been taught to fear authority and respect authority, and they don't advocate for themselves. So when you look at some of these kids that are not graduating from college or having a very difficult time, sometimes they can't tell you why they're struggling with it.
Right.
So when you ask me what's going to happen with this 14-year-old, that's the thing, right? The blessing in this instance is that it caught national attention.
Yes, absolutely.
So in some ways that it validates that child. So
Yes.
his experience may not be what it could be.
Right.
But when you look at how a kid who has that kind of trauma navigates life, I'm telling you, this shows up in so many other ways. Never mind, you could have a kid who has PTSD every time they see the daggone cop.
Right.
I have PTSD every time a cop pulls behind me because I see him. I can pull me over for fucking
Exactly.
a speeding ticket.
Exactly. Yes.
So imagine what that's like for a kid. Oh my God. I mean, I'm saying it very simply, but that's one thing. But that's a whole nother piece, this whole challenging authority and advocating for themselves. And that's without having major interaction with police. Now, imagine what that is and how this is going to translate. It's a lot. It's a lot to wrap your head around.
And you know what? This is the thing. The amount of social media presence, in a sense, can be, positive or negative. Because can you imagine if no one had a smartphone, if no one filmed this, it would be
he said, she said.
Yeah, it would be the cop's word versus the little Black boy's word. And of course, everyone would assume that the cop is right and things of that nature. Cameras are everywhere.
Right. But that's the only way we've had any kind of advancement when you're talking about advancement like that. That's the only reason why what was happening in the South in the 60s didn't make sense because people could see.
You can see it's clear, it's evident. Right. Ahmaud Arbery. There was a camera. The guy filmed him being chased in a pickup truck. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, it's like, thank God for it, because someone said, well, is it happening more? I'm like, no, it's just being captured more. It's always happened. It probably has even happened, at the same pace, maybe even worse, whatever, but we're capturing it. Everyone has a camera, a cell phone. You walk down the street.
I'm going to say it probably happens a little bit more often. And
I
I'll tell
think
you
so.
why.
Yeah.
I think, again, because these are Obama babies and they do not
Uh-huh.
understand some of the stupid stuff that's happening.
Right.
And they don't have the 50-year history of understanding that you get beat in your head behind this. They're just like,
Right.
well, I don't understand why this is happening.
Right. You're right. Yeah. You're right.
So
It's
I
like,
do think
oh my
they're
God.
challenging it more, but I don't think that's a bad thing. And I think these kids will be the ones to lead us into they're strong enough and they question enough and they don't accept what we accepted. So
Right.
it will be progression.
Uh-huh.
And they're gonna be they're gonna be it. It's gonna be on them. But we just have to be able to support them
Ooh,
enough
I hope
emotionally to
so.
get there.
I hope so. So listen, Dr. Grundy, we have to take a quick break because I have to make a quick announcement about Blessed Ministries Incorporated. Blessed Ministries Incorporated sponsors and funds this program. And I have to say, I'm so excited because we were just awarded a contract to work with those impacted by opioids in Hudson County, Passaic County, Essex County, and Union County. And anyone in my ear shot, if you are a resident of Hudson County, Passaic, Union, Essex County, and New Jersey, and you have been impacted by opioids, or you yourself have a history, your friends, whatever, and you are seeking employment, definitely come to Blessed Ministries Incorporated, and we will get ready to show who we are. This just up. Hold on for a second. So listen, we are sponsored by Blessed Ministries Incorporated. The Urban Suite is sponsored by Blessed Ministries Incorporated. We are the premier workforce development agency in the state of New Jersey. And we work with various populations to get them employed, you guys. We work with those under the supervision of parole. We work with adults with disabilities. We work with youth with disabilities, like teens with disabilities. We work with those impacted by opioids in the state of New Jersey, as well as those that are receiving like food stamps and things of that nature. We do put people to work. So yeah, I am very excited about what is happening with Blessed Ministries Incorporated. And I thank everyone. I thank those that have given donations to Blessed Ministries Incorporated, because your donations go to workplace attire. It goes to people receiving ID, because guess what? You can't work above table without a government issued identification. Okay. So anyway, let's bring Dr. Grundy back.
I'm here. As a side question, do they collect professional wear at Blessed Ministries?
Do we collect professional? What did you say?
Professional wear, like?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Professional clothing.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Yes. We receive donations, and then what we do is we have recruitments every Wednesday with the Department of Labor. We have FedEx that may come. We have UPS. We have Newark Airport. So yeah, and you know what? I have to say, Dr. Grundy, throughout the pandemic, we never closed our door. We were always open because we service those that are under the supervision of parole. So, during that time, a lot of those that were on parole were coming out of prison. So we had to service them because employment is key,
Yeah, it is.
Reoffend.
Having to be somewhere is key.
Yes,
having
yes.
to be responsible to someone, and someone feeling like you're responsible to them.
Yes. So listen, Dr. Grundy, this is one of our segments that we do on this show. This is our flushing segment. I always have to flush someone down the toilet. Who got I'm telling you. This one is interesting. Who is getting ready to get flushed down the toilet? Who am I flushing? Let's see. Let's start it.
Flushing. I want to know who we flushing.
Pleaded guilty to crimes against children, which included putting her husband's sperm in cupcakes that were given to children to eat.
Oh. That is horrible.
horrible. People are
in her classroom.
Oh my God.
Cynthia Perkins, you see her there, cut a deal that will have her testifying against her ex-husband, the man you see there, Dennis Perkins, a former Livingston Parish deputy sheriff in Louisiana.
I can't believe he's a former deputy sheriff.
Listen, I didn't say they were all right. There's a whole lot of folks. Every
That's close to
every
Baton
profession
Rouge.
has crazy
He's
people,
also
okay?
charged with dozens of sex crimes, including child porn and rape.
This all started in December of 2019 when these two individuals, a deputy in Livingston Parish and his teacher wife, who was a middle school teacher, got caught by Adobe. They were photoshopping things. Adobe turned them into authorities in Louisiana, which launched an investigation. Authorities with the attorney.
Okay, did you hear that, Adobe?
I heard that. How bad, how egregious does it have to be in order for Adobe to recognize that you are doing stuff?
Yes.
What is that? That is, oh my God. That.
Attorney General's office showed up at the couple's house. They found this safe full of hard drives, computers, thumb drives, things like that. And all of it was encrypted with a software called Keep My Data Safe. And so essentially they had to come in and decode everything. And when they decoded everything, they were alarmed at what they saw. They saw child porn, they saw child rape. They also saw what appeared to be this deputy who was ejaculating on sweets that were then being served to his wife's.
Listen, I cannot imagine my children sitting in that classroom.
That's why you have to make sure stuff comes from a store. You can't bring stuff from home. Okay, let me just tell you that, because you don't know how people cooking food. Were they feeding their pets while they're cooking and stirring?
The cat, the dog on the counter walking up.
Oh, Jesus! Oh.
Class. They immediately filed for divorce. She actually just struck a plea deal with some of the prosecutors here. So she now has to testify against him at trial. And she has agreed to do that in exchange for what some people in this area are calling a light sentence. She'll probably do about 40 years and will probably be eligible for good time, so maybe 20 years. He is scheduled to go to trial sometime this summer. I'm told that they have some evidentiary issues that they're now trying to work through. I think they identified at least 12 kids that ate those tainted cupcakes.
Can you listen?
Somebody said flush them again. I'm with you on that one.
Flush 'em
Whoever
again.
said that.
That was Raquel said flush them again.
Raquel? Good Lord.
There's some sick demonic people in this world.
Who does that to children? I mean, but then again, nothing they did sound like they considered or cared about a child.
I cannot. You know,
But people like that are going to get theirs. Let them
They
get
sure
theirs,
will.
because I promise you somebody going to find them.
That's
You're going to find them chopped up somewhere. They're going to get found. That's the only thing that gives me any kind of peace and craziness like that.
Swimming with the
Somebody
fishes,
gonna find
with the
them.
gators in Louisiana. So listen,
Exactly.
Dr.
They
Grundy,
might
I
not
thank
be
God for people like you, because we have perverts and creeps like them that need to be found out. And thank God for Adobe. Like, I didn't know Adobe did that. Like,
apparently Adobe does.
Right.
You know what? Because Adobe does, they have a site where you can like print pictures. So most of us just print like the New York skyline. These people apparently were. Come on, tell me something good, because now my face is all twisted and I'm just trying to get right. I can't even get my face right.
So listen, I want to ask you one last question. Someone that is considering becoming a doctor, what advice do you give them?
Keep moving. Keep doing it. I will tell you, every physician friend of mine of color had somebody get in their way and try and tell them what they could not do. I don't have one single friend, and every last one of them can tell you when, who, where, and what was said.
A black friend? Are they all black?
Yeah.
Or just, oh, yes.
Yeah. Mine actually was my my college advisor.
Wow. Now, did you have any mentors
Yeah.
Okay.
So as much as people can break you, other people can make you, and I'm so grateful.
I like. Ooh.
So now,
yeah,
there was, and this is funny. So now, if you go back and ask Jen Parrish, because the person who told me I would never get into med school because of my scores and blah blah. I went back to my dorm. I cried. I changed my major. I was a mess. And there's some people don't test well. I tested okay, but it wasn't like stellar testing.
Right.
But here's the thing. She had no idea who I knew, right? And when I say that, I mean in person on this earth, but she also knew. She had no idea what was set for me and what God's plan was for me.
Yeah.
So as much as she tried to tear me down, I called Auntie. Auntie was like, oh no, we're not changing our plans. Like she was gonna get the MD too. She's a nurse, but she's the one I looked up to. So my aunt is a nurse, and she was my first mentor because I just thought she could fix everything, right? She was cool. She drove a great car. She was funny. She was wild. She was all of it. Now she's holy saved, baptized.
Amen.
But I will say to you, she was my first mentor, and she really told me, nope, we're not gonna do that. You keep doing what you were supposed to do. So now, as much as this woman tore me down, and she was very about her research people. If you weren't research, she didn't want to deal with you. And my heart was too tender to even understand that I just wasn't anybody on her radar because she didn't care about what I was going to do. But there was another Hampton grad, and his name was Jim Foster. He's since passed. So now, at the time, University Hospital was called University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey. They had a summer program, which was called Students for Medicine and Dentistry Program. It has a new name now. But what they would do is they would take kids who were college students, and you would go during the summer, and you get exposure to not only physicians of color that had multiple specialties. They would come and do talks for us. So that's where representation is key. You need to see somebody who looks like you.
Right.
You need to have somebody who you can go to, somebody who got through it. They share their stories, and you can say, I got it, I can do it. But then it's also nice to have somebody who can kind of rally the troops. So Jim Foster was a Hampton grad, and he was also one of the mentors as part of the Students for Medicine and Dentistry program. He didn't have a medical degree. His degree was really like in admissions, but he worked within the department, and he was one of the people who headed up minority admissions. Along with him was Lonnie Wright. So I never understood how big Lonnie Wright was. He's from the community, and his wife is still very much, he's since passed as well. But Lonnie Wright was like pro baller. Like I didn't realize he was this big. Like if you Google Lonnie Wright, like you'll get like he was a major football player. He was big stuff. He was playing and he was working in admissions. So those two men were like Papa Bears to me.
Wow.
And when I maybe had been on the cuff of getting into med school, I had Jim Foster pushing me through and the interview process and advocating for me, because you do need somebody to advocate for you sometimes. And then I also had the Lord on my side, because he knew there was a plan for me, and he also knew that I was supposed to be in this role and position. Because many a day I cried many a tear, and I'm like, Lord, I don't know if this is what my plan's supposed to be.
Right,
This is
I'm
just
sure.
too much. And those two men were very, very integral to me getting through. My mom, probably my biggest mentor. She's a single parent, and when I tell you that woman kept me in private school, she lived off of one check, paid tuition off of the other. And when I say lived off of, that meant that had to be the rent and everything else. And she just had the stone cold determination that whatever I was going to do was going to be, I was going to get there, right? I can remember being in med school, my first year of med school. I was struggling. Oh my God, I was struggling. And at one point, I went into the laundromat because, again, we lived on the first floor of a 3-family house. It was just me and my mom, and she was at the laundromat doing her clothes. And it's the laundromat we went to all the time. So mommy would chat with the laundromat people. The name of it was the laundromat. It was a since closed. I walked into the laundromat. I'm having a day where I'm like, I just don't know if this is gonna happen. Lord, I'm just done. And it was two things. How am I gonna continue to pay for all these loans I took out, and what am I gonna tell my mama? Because my mother worked so hard to keep me in school. I walked in the laundromat, and the lady behind the counter who's working the laundromat says, "Oh, are you Willie's daughter?" She said, "The doctor? You Willie's daughter?" The doctor. I said, sugar. I guess I'm have to finish this. I can't embarrass my mother.
Right. Oh my God.
It was a very simple greeting, but it was her saying it to me, and I understood that my mama had been talking.
Yes.
I was not going to embarrass my mama.
Yes, I hear you. I hear you.
Just literally God and my mama, and just the people around me in my community, and the people who are with me as students. We, those of us, we pushed through, and I am grateful, and I try my best to make sure I do the same for others, because it just is. You just need to see somebody. You need to understand that somebody's pushing for you.
That is true. Absolutely. And let's put up your website. It's Trinity Pediatrics, PCPA.com. That's TRINITY Pediatrics, PEDIATRICSPCPA.com. That's for my iHeartRadio family, because I have
an audience. She did a lot of spelling.
And then your office phone number is 973. That's area code 973-843-7149. Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Yes. Oh my God. Thank you so very much. Thank you for
you are more than welcome.
The Urban Suite, and for joining us and meeting my urbanites. And I'm sure they learned a lot, and hopefully that information that you provided, especially with the patient health questionnaire 9 and the other questions, will be able to assist. And listen, urbanites, do not be ashamed to answer those questions, because that questionnaire is self-reported. So you have to report. You should not underreport or over-report, because basically what happens is whatever you report, that's what your doctor is going to go on. And I always tell my urbanites, remember, you're in the driver's seat. You are in the driver's seat of your health. So you have to have a working, wonderful relationship with your doctor. I was sharing with Dr. Grundy that my OBGYN of almost 20 plus years retired. I had no idea that she retired. And when I found out, I'm telling you, you guys, I really did. I sat on my bed and I cried, because that was a wonderful relationship. She helped deliver 3 of my babies out of the 4. And it's like, oh my gosh. So when you find a good physician, you hold on to that physician, you know what? And that's why they are there. So again, thank you so very much, Dr. Grundy. And I thank you guys for coming into the Urban Suite. As always, where you laugh, learn, cry, and grow. Thank you and good night.
Good night. Stay blessed.